available space.
Everyone,
It is not
Dr.
necessary to form a single
This is
file
what
line.
the SeaWorld
If you are
for.
traveling with a stroller, please have children and valuables unloaded before
Today I'm
you
at the
reach our stroller
Kilimanjaro
parking
Safari.
area. If you are traveling with someone in a scooter or wheelchair,
If you're planning on taking photos or videos, hold on tightly to your cameras or any other loose articles for that matter. We cannot stop to pick up any items that may fall out. Front to the right, make sure to watch your hands on feet and legs. Those doors are going to close.
when it comes to safari, we know why.
Asante Sana word. Asante Sana means thank you here in Harambe. Another Swahili word we like to say around here is twende. That means let's go. Jumbo everyone, my name is Kaden. I'll be your safari guide for today's journey through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. This reserve was established in 1989 to help protect and preserve the local wildlife. And over the years, the animals have become very used to us humans, which is great for safaris like ours. But I do ask that as we enter the reserve, we just remember we're also entering these animals' homes as well. They often have impeccable hearing or just very sensitive ears, so be respectful of them. Keep your voices at a low volume level, your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times. Do not stand up or lean out of the vehicle at any moment. That way we can have a fun and safe adventure as we enter the Little Ituri Forest. In this forest, you're likely to find many animals whose natural colors and markings help them to blend in with their environment. Like the bongo on our left. A little hard to see, but you can just see over the top of that hill there, there's the head of an orange antelope. They're very beautiful. We'll get a better view of one in just a second. Now the bongo are all about mobility. They've got horns leaning backwards against their head, helping them to move quickly through thick and tangled brush, and the stripes along their back and their sides there is a form of active camo. That's a camouflage that only works when they're in motion, helping them to blend in with the trees when running swiftly away from predators in this environment. Now on our back to the right there, just behind that little stalk of bamboo, there is no copy. It's got stripes along its legs, meant to help it blend in with the horizontally leaning foliage, and sometimes the rays of the sun seeping through the forest canopy at certain angles. Although their stripes make them look like they should be related to the zebra, they are actually the only known relatives of the giraffe family. And like giraffe, they have long prehensile tongues, around 16 to 18 inches in length, helping them to grip various foliage out of trees and bushes for their diet.
It's getting pretty bumpy right here. It's a bird or a duck. I'm not sure what that thing is.
Now on the top to our left there, once again behind the bamboo, there's some greater kudu. Those large tan antelopes are greater in size than most others, standing about 55 inches at the shoulder. They can weigh up to 780 pounds. And a little closer to our truck, that little bird is called a saddle-billed stork, named for the patch of yellow at the beginning of its bill, shaped like a saddle. There's actually two that live out here. I'm not sure where the other one is right now, but there's one male. Oh, there he is on the right. So there's one male, that's the one on the right, and the female is to our left. And I can easily tell them apart because of their eye color. The females have yellow eyes while the males have brown eyes. Also, those birds mate for life, so that was a little forever couple we just saw back there. Now we are leaving the Little Ituri Forest and headed next towards the Safi River. The Safi River is a great place to find some Nile hippopotamus. So keep your eyes peeled. There they are on the right. Very, very far corner. Keep your eyes peeled underneath the surface of the water. They do spend a lot of time down there to protect their delicate skin from the sunlight. They have a backup method as well. If you've ever seen a hippo that's been lying out in the sun for a while and its skin starts to look a bit red, that's not a sunburn. They secrete this red pigmentation, this liquid onto their backs that helps to reflect the harsh rays of the sun right off. Kind of like a natural sunscreen for them.
Hippos are man-eaters.
Hippos will spend about 8 minutes under the water at a time. That's how long they can hold their breath for. They can even sleep under the water by raising themselves back up to the surface every 8 minutes to draw breath. Then they'll sink down automatically, all without waking up. Unfortunately, however, they can't swim, so instead they just kind of tread along the riverbed. Anytime you've seen a hippo where it appears to be swimming, it was really just walking in shallow waters. In fact, they can run it up to 15 miles an hour in the water and around 35 miles an hour on land. Now friends, we're going to be very cautious as we cross this bridge right here.
Look at the crocodiles.
Those are Nile crocodile to our left. So once again, I ask that everyone remain completely seated. They are real and they are apex predators after all. Nile crocodile can grow to be up to 16 feet in length, which is about as long as a giraffe stands tall. And although their jaws do look big and scary and very intense, bone-crushing teeth, they are used for more than just catching their prey. For instance, the Nile crocodile are actually very caring and nurturing parents. They like to cradle their eggs in their jaws for sometimes hours a day, just to help them hatch from the motion and the warmth. Sometimes they'll continue to incubate their young even after they've been hatched. In fact, they can hold up to 15 crocodile babies in their jaw at a time. Now, as I take this turn on the right, you're going to be looking at the old baobab tree. And when I say old, I mean old. They take thousands of years to appear like this. Some people say baobab tree, though that's technically incorrect. But if baobab tree is too hard for you to remember, you can try to remember one of its nicknames instead, like the upside down tree, as its branches will go leafless up to 9 months out of the year, making them appear just like roots. And like a root system, that tree is very full of moisture, about 26,000 gallons at minimum. That's any given time of the year, even during the African dry months. Sometimes natural weathering to the sides of those trees, as well as puncture marks left by elephants' tusks, can leave it leaking for days afterwards, at which point other smaller animals might like to come up and get a sip as well. And this has earned it its secondary nickname, the Tree of Life, as it is such a great source of nutrition for so many different animals out here on the savannah. Like the Hartman's mountain zebra to the right. Characteristic of all mountain zebra is the way that their stripes get a little bit thicker and more spread out towards their rear ends. But the Hartman's mountain zebra specifically have a little flap hanging down on their neck that's called a dewlap, and it's used for thermal regulation. Speaking of thermal regulation, next up on our right would be the Ankole cattle with their massive horns that can grow to be up to 6 feet in length. You might be thinking horns like that would be really heavy, but they're not. They're almost entirely hollow, aside from some of the blood that they store in there, which is also used for thermal regulation, just like the dewlap of the zebra. On our left, these running towards their den are called African wild dogs, also known as the painted dogs, for their beautiful fur coats of black, white, and gold that look like they've just been painted right on. And despite the fact that they do just kind of look like docile, cuddly puppies out here, they are actually some of the most dangerous, and they are the most successful hunters in all of Africa, with about a 92% catch rate. We've got some wildebeest coming up on our left as well. A rather small herd, though it certainly looks like a lot in comparison to some of the other animals out here. But wildebeest herds can go to be up to 1.5 million wildebeest in size, meaning their migrations as a whole are sometimes visible from outer space. And a little closer to the trap, these are sable antelope, the most majestic looking of all the antelope species in my opinion. They've got those beautiful horns leaning backwards against their head, kind of like the bongo from the Little Italy Forest. But while the bongo use their horns to push aside thick and tangled brush, sable antelope's horns act as a deterrent for predators who may try and pounce on their backs from behind. Now, on the subject of functionality in animals' horns, the Ankole cattle here don't just have blood inside those horns. They also have a sort of lightweight, spongy honeycomb texture going on inside there as well. That helps to filter out the blood from the mucus. As gross as that is, their horns are connected to their nasal cavity. It's a great way for them to clear out their sinuses by tilting their horns down towards the ground. But if you ever see an Ankole cattle that's rapidly swinging its horns from side to side, that's a sign of a lot of sinus buildup and discomfort. It's one way that we can tell that they are sick. Now, if you're wondering what those big rock structures were back there, like the ones on our right here that look like fingers, those are simply termite mounds, and you can learn a little bit more about them over at the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. But they're not actually made out of rock at all. So if it isn't the first thing that comes to mind, that's because it's actually number 2. They are made out of animal dung, saliva, and dirt, but they get to be stronger than concrete, so sometimes our giraffe out here like to use them as a scratching post. On our far right, way out there, you can see some beautiful tan antelope. Those are called common eland, the second largest antelope in the entire world next to the greater eland. But despite their impressive size and stature, they're amazing jumpers and can leap 8 feet high into the air.
Wow.
On our left is what you've all been waiting for, the Maasai giraffe, one of the 8 different species of giraffe in Africa. The ones on your animal spotting guide are the reticulated giraffe. They've got a boxier, more squished together orange texture, and you can find those over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. The Maasai giraffe here have a darker, more irregular pattern, and they are my personal favorites. They're very fun to look at, kind of like a messy art project in a good way. I mentioned in the Little Ituri Forest that the giraffe and the okapi were related, and I talked a bit about those prehensile tongues of theirs, but there is one key difference, and that's the color. Giraffe have purple tongues, which isn't just for good looks either. Helps to keep them from getting sunburned, as they spend about 16 hours out of their day eating, with their tongues on the outside of their mouths in the hot savanna sun. Now we are entering African elephant territory next. One of the ways that we can tell that these are African elephants is by their ears, which are in the shape of the continent itself. Their ears are so massive that they can be used to cool themselves down up to 15 degrees just by waving them back and forth, which counts as another form of thermal regulation. Another way that we can tell that they are African elephants is by their trunks. They are fully prehensile, with over 40,000 muscles inside their trunks alone. They can hold 2.5 gallons of water in there. Now, although elephants are not the most outwardly vocal animals to our human ears, they do communicate with one another in a really similar way to what us humans do, and how we use sentence structures. We just can't hear them talking because it's through infrasound, a low rumble too low for our human ears to perceive. But a few years ago, scientists working with the Disney Conservation Fund discovered that elephants use their infrasound to warn each other when bees are in the area. We of course believe that this is because the elephants are afraid of the bees, and we've started to use this to our advantage. We have erected beehive fences all over several Central African communities. Now, that sounds mean at first, but before this we found that the elephants were wandering onto their cropland, where sadly those elephants would be subject to poaching. So this is actually for their protection. Since we've done this, they warn each other to stay far away from those areas. And now everyone wins. The villagers' crops are safe from the elephants. The elephants are, of course, safe from the villagers. And the farmers even have another form of produce in the honey that they can sell to the villagers. That's called the Elephants and Bees Project. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, here's their website, theelephantsandbees.org, later on. Now on our right, there is a wall of clay with some tusk marks from the elephants themselves. They were recently scooping out this clay for consumption. I know that probably sounds a little gross, because for us humans, eating dirt or clay would be considered a big no-no, but the elephant stomachs process it way differently than ours would. It's also really high in proteins and nutrients, and therefore is a great dietary supplement for them. Kind of just like taking your multivitamin in the morning. Now friends, in my opinion, this stretch of road up ahead here is one of the most beautiful places on our reserve. I think it's very photogenic in and of itself, even if we don't happen to find a certain herd of elephants. But this is still elephant land that we're in, so keep your eyes peeled. But unfortunately, they are facing habitat destruction in environments just as beautiful as this all over the world. That's because humans are moving in on their territory to mine for coltan, a material found in your cell phone batteries and other small electronic devices. So I won't tell you not to use those things. They are pretty important for everyday life. But just remember that at the end of your phone's life, when it finally gives out on you, you can recycle it or turn it back into the store. Because if we just keep reusing all the coltan we already have, they probably won't need to mine for any more in a few years. So you and I can make a huge difference in the lives and the homes of these beautiful elephants here for years to come, just by doing really simple things like that. Now, these are the greater flamingo on our left, the largest but the least colorful of all the flamingo. They get their colors from beta-carotene found in shrimp and other small crustaceans, which are parts of their diet. So no, they're not born pink. They're born that grayish-black color you can see on the little flaminglets right there in the flock. Not only are they gray, but they've got kind of a more downy texture, kind of fuzzy texture to their feathers. They'll grow to be more smooth and more pink over time as they mature and consume more keratin. And a second ago I called that group of flamingo a flock, but that's not entirely correct. Anyone back there happen to know the actual animal group name for what we call them together? You can shout this one out loud and proud if you happen to know it, because not a lot of people do. Anyone? You're really close. It's a flamboyance of flamingo. Yeah. Which I think is a very fitting name. Kind of like when we call a group of giraffe a tower, or a group of rhino a thrash. That's a pretty fitting name as well. Rhino have really bad eyesight. They can only see about 20 meters out in front of them, and everything they see is a big blurry mess. So they crash into their environment a lot. Now these are the white rhino, not named explicitly for their skin color. Originally, it was an Afrikaans word, vite, spelled V-I-T-E, meaning wide mouth. Because if you remember, the black rhino have a triangular shape to their mouth with a prehensile upper lip, helping them to grip hanging vegetation. But white rhino are grass-grazing animals, and therefore their faces are built for that. But when European explorers came over to Africa in the 1800s, they heard them saying white rhino and thought it was the English word white, as it appears that they have lighter skin than the black rhino. But in reality, it's just their pigmentation, or sorry, it's just their environment that makes them look that way. Their pigmentation is actually entirely the same. The real key distinction between the black and the white rhino, the two African species, would be just the shape of their face and their overall size. White rhino here weigh about 2,000 pounds more than the black rhino, for a total of 5,000 pounds. Now on our left, you trace your eyes just to the left of that log, lying down is the fastest land animal in the entire world, the cheetah, which can run at top speeds of 80 miles an hour with an average of around 60. They are the only daytime hunters of the big cats, and that's because their night vision is no better than mine or yours. They're also some of the only cats to hunt without their claws retracted. They don't have fully retractable claws, so they'll hook them into the ground to help them turn, along with their tails being used kind of like a rotor motor on a boat. They will throw those long, heavy tails of theirs in the opposite direction, at whichever way they're turning, just to counterbalance their weight so they don't tip over at high speeds. On our left are going to be two beautiful antelope called waterbuck, or actually three waterbuck, very easily identifiable from other antelope by the little rings of white around their bottom. So named for the absurd amount of water that they drink for a forest antelope. It's about 82% more than their body needs in a day. And on the top of the Kopi rocks there is our other fearsome feline, the lions, which as you can see are far more nocturnal than the cheetah. They'll spend about 16 to 20 hours out of their day resting. Not all of that is sleeping. Usually around this time they're just not engaging in any sort of strenuous activity. But when it is time for the hunt, it's almost always the lioness who do the hunting. While the male lion there will stay back and protect his cubs. This is due in part to the fact that male lions' manes can weigh up to 40 pounds, so the lioness are significantly lighter and faster than them. Now that male lion back there, his name is Dakari. He is very handsome. So handsome, in fact, that he was used as the model for the live-action Lion King Simba. So congratulations, you just met a celebrity in flesh and bone back there. On our right is the fastest and largest landlocked bird in the entire world, the ostrich, which can run at 40 miles an hour. And right in front of it, a little closer to the truck, that antelope lying down may not look like anything crazy to you, but it is in fact the most special animal on our reserve. It's called a bontebok, and not only is it the oldest animal in seniority out here, it's also the rarest. Bontebok were once hunted to near extinction, with only 17 of them left out in the wild. That was around 150 years ago, and over the last 150 years, they've been able to regrow their populations to around 3,000. And within the next couple of months, the Disney Conservation Fund plans on putting a new herd of bontebok back into the wildlands of Africa. So they are trying to bring back that entire species as we speak. If you're looking to check off some more of your Lion King trio today, look to your left for Pumbaa. There it is. Now, one of our warthogs actually was also used as the model for Pumbaa. I'm not sure which one it is, but regardless, we can call them Pumbaa because that's actually a Swahili word for warthogs in Africa. It's not a formal translation because technically what it means is foolish one or dim-witted, but it evolved like a slang term to mean warthog in a lot of West African communities nowadays. We've got another great view of those white rhino on our right. Some ostrich eggs as well. These eggs are pretty impressive on their own. They are the largest and strongest bird eggs in the entire world. About 3 pounds each and 1/4 inch thick. They could even support your weight jumping up and down on them.
Yeah. We would expect for eggs to crack if we would jump on them.
Now friends, we are about to leave the savannah and head next into what we call the Magadi Glen. The Magadi Glen is where our warden's post is located, and the chief warden here watches out over the entire reserve, making sure all of our animals are safe from one another, safe from poachers, and just overall living happy, healthy lives. But here he also likes to take care of some baby goats. These are going to be the Nigerian dwarf goats, which can jump about 4 feet high into the air. Now you'll notice not all of them are babies. Some of the older ones in this crowd are their mothers, which give off a super sweet milk, very high in proteins and nutrients as well. Therefore, the warden sells that milk to the nearby villagers, so they can and do play a very integral part in the life of this village here, and villages just like it all over Africa, as many Nigerian dwarf goats do. Unfortunately, that warden's post is on the very edge of our reserve, and it marks the end of our journey together. I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Now, we saw a lot of really cool and intimidating animals out there today, like those Nile crocodile, the cheetah, and the lions. We saw all three of our big predators today. But I think you should all know by now that the most fearsome predator out there is really just us humans. And as these animals' greatest predator, we also need to be their greatest protector. We can do that in a multitude of ways, whether by engaging in 3 R's of conservation, reduce, reuse, recycle, or contributing to organizations like the Disney Conservation Fund. That's really easy to do while you're here because you can round up just a few cents on any purchases that you make this afternoon. But if you don't want to make those physical or monetary efforts right now, that's okay too. But at the very least, share what you learned today with a friend or a family member. You never know what a simple animal fact or a conservation message might do to inspire a love of conservation and wildlife preservation into someone new who just probably never considered that to be an important part of their lives before. And that is something that I'm personally very passionate about since I work here with you guys talking to you about the animals all day. So I hope you're able to take what you learned from me and pass it on to someone else. Make it matter just that much more. But friends, it looks like it is about our turn to dock up ahead here and say our farewells. But I don't want to say goodbye to you. Goodbyes are way too sad and way too final. So instead, I'll leave you with another Swahili word, that being Kwaherini. Because Kwaherini just means to go well. So my friends on the right, make sure to watch your hands, arms, feet, and legs. Those doors are opening. And Kwaherini, everybody. Go well, go wild, go make a difference out there. Thank you so much for coming along. If you are a wilderness explorer, you've been riding.
That's the end of the ride.